Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudhirayet English, no? Everybody speaks English. Du übersetzt ins Deutsche. Deutsche Übersetzung mit Subal Gopal. So we are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena, Text 43. Hast du ein deutsches Bhagavatam?
43.
Verstehst du Englisch oder lieber Deutsch? Deutsch, genau. Subal Gopal übersetzt. Kann ich dazu setzen. Also, das weiß ich nicht.
Müsste 42 sein.
Okay, dann Vers 42. Text 42, sorry. Please repeat. Nangasyam Vangsho Rajarshir Esha Sangstatum Arhati Amogha Virya Hi Nripa Vangshe Smin Keshavashrayah Nangasya Vamso Rajarsir Esha samstatum arhati amoga viryahi nripam vamshesmin keshavashrayaham nangasya vamsharajarshir Esha samstatum arhati amoga viryahi nripam vamshesmin keshavashrayaham nangasya vamsharajarshir Esha samstatum arhati amoga viryahi nripam vamshesmin keshavashrayaham. Please. Ladies. Word by word translation. Nam, not. Angasya, of King Anga. Vamshaha, family line. Rajarshehe, of the saintly king. Eshaha, this. Samstatum, to be stopped. Arhati, Arhati, ought. Ought. Was ist es auf Deutsch? Sollte, ja. Ought. It's in English a little bit not so common. Ought. Should, maybe could also be. Amogha, without sin. Power, without sin, powerful. Viryaha, their semen. He, because. Naripaha, kings. Vamshe, in the family. Asmin, this. Keshava, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ashrayaha, under the shelter. Translation on purpose by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Once again, the sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Purport. The purity of hereditary succession is called Amoghavirya. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes, beginning with Garbhadhana Samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter as described in the following verses. Om Hagyana Timirandasya Gyanangyana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopipakanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padam Vajo Radhamadan Mohanao Divyadvrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimadratangara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Upreshtalivi Savamano Smarami Srimandra Sarasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastitaha Karsham Venu Swanai Gopir Gopinata Shriyestanaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Once again the verse. Nangasya vamsharajarsher esha samstatum arhati amoga viryahi nripa vamshesmin keshavashrayaha.
Sorry, but this verse I think last time.
Yeah?
Yeah, read this verse last time.
Alright.
Maybe we need to listen to
Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave a class on the first verse of Ishopanishads for 1 month. But we can read the next one also. But what is in the... Heute ist Sonntag, kommt ein neuer Plan. Okay, we'll first talk about this verse, and if necessary, we might talk about the next one as well. Ningasya vamsharajarsher esha samstatum arhati amhoga viryahi nripa vamshesmin keshavashrayaha. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Who gave this lecture? What did he say? You remember?
about families.
About families?
Different famous families.
Devotee families. Okay, nice. Yes, so here we have a description that the sages, they realized that actually it is their duty to do something. Even usually the brahmanas are, in one sense, you could say, aloof or outside of the general, you could say, social dealings. At this point, they realized that actually there was their duty to do something for the people. If the people are suffering and the king is not there to protect them, then they realize it's actually our duty to do something about it. And the analogy that was given in the previous verse was of the pot that is leaking. You know? So if a pot is leaking, even it can contain water for some time, its main purpose basically is destroyed. You know? So the idea is that the brahmanas usually give instructions and live by an ideal example, but at different times they might have to intervene. And the story of King Vena is a very famous story where they intervened, repeatedly, also aggressively, you could say, because they killed King Vena also. So they intervened by killing King Vena. Before they intervened by trying to, you could say, teach him, which was more or less normal for Brahmanas. But at one point, when they realized that Vena was a hopeless case, they killed him in the spot. And then they are now considering, how to continue the dynasty of King Anga. So that's now the point they have arrived. And I'll talk a little bit about Chanakya Pandit. You might have heard Chanakya Pandit is a very famous logician, and he wrote this famous Chanakya Niti as like a set of sutras about logic and good reason. And Chanakya Pandit was very famous because he also intervened in ancient India. There were a lot of attacks from outside of India, especially from Central Asia, and he realized that all the different chiefs and kings that were ruling India at that time, especially North India, they were all very selfish, and they had some small conflict, with this king and that king, and so they were not united, the different kingdoms in northern India. And therefore they could not really protect the people from the attacks. Because unlike the traditional Vedic Kshatriyas, the attacks from Central Asia were barbarians. They did not come for a, you could say, just fight, and then if they win the fight, they can take the kingdom. Many of the invaders who came to India, especially in the beginning, later became a little bit different, but in the beginning, many of the invaders, they just wanted to plunder. So basically, they would just come, like the Vikings did in England also. They come, bam, 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 smash everything, take all the gold, put in the ship, and go back home. So it's the same. They used to come and, havoc, destroy, kill, indiscriminately, children, women, burn everything down, and then take whatever wealth they could find. Because India, unlike today, back then was a very, very safe place. And many of the travelers who traveled to ancient India, they described how everybody would openly wear extremely valuable ornaments. Everybody, even lower class people. That means from a lower range in society, they were still wealthy, well-to-do, and everybody was displaying, gold and jewelry, without any fear in public. So you can ascertain if a society is, healthy, how safe, vulnerable people feel in public, basically. Like in Japan, it's common that children already in the age of 3 years start going alone to kindergarten. 5 years already to take the metro, and go to school by themselves. No problem. Nobody's afraid something will happen to them. So that's a sign it's safe, organized society. But this, and also for India, this was a big shock, because they were not used to Kshatriyas behaving like this, so-called Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas usually would only fight against somebody who's equal to them, who had equal power, who had equal weapon even, and if the person would turn its back or surrender, they always would forgive the person. So all these codes of conduct and ideals of Brahmanas, of Kshatriyas, were not present. So it was a big disadvantage. They were the disadvantage. They were not prepared for such an attack, you could say. And Chanakya Pandit, realizing that the people in general were, unprotected, decided he should intervene. And first, like the Brahmanas here, he started talking to all the different kings, and started giving them instructions. You should protect the people, you should unite, you should choose a Chakravarti. A Chakravarti is like an emperor, so you have different rajas, but the Chakravarti is the king of kings, and he should be, the most powerful amongst us, and he should, unitedly then protect the people. And but they were all so petty and so concerned about their, small individual problems that they did not, hear Chanakya Pandit's instructions. So Chanakya Pandit famously then opened his sikha, and he said, I will not put a knot in my sikha until there is a pious emperor in the seat of Bharat. So you will see the depictions of Chanakya Pandit with his long open sikha. Because usually a brahmana, a brahmana only opens his sikha at night during sleep, and then during the day, always the sikha should be knotted. You should not sleep with a knotted sikha, actually, if you didn't know. And so Chanakya Pandit then found a very simple boy, a boy from a very simple family. And I forgot exactly the circumstances, but it was something like there was a river and some animal was drowning, something like that. And the small boy, he took the risk, and he jumped into the river and rescued that animal, something like that. And Chanakya Pandit was observing that, and he said, this is a qualified Kshatriya, I can train him. So he asked him, who's your mother? I was like, my mother is this maidservant. Very simple woman, no father, a maidservant, But still, Chanakya Pandit saw that this boy had the qualities of a Kshatriya. So he trained him. And he was a very tough guru also. The word guru means somebody who's tough, So, and also, many movies are made about, the kung fu master, He's like, with the stick, like, bam! You're like, ah! Training the students, So, something like that, For many, many years, Chanakya Pandit trained Chandragupta, And he trained him to the point where he was able to, because one of the books that he also wrote, I think, is the Artha Shastra, if I'm not wrong. Shishit Paladakshina Singari Bhagwan Ki Jai. And so there's the Artha Shastra, it's a very famous book on diplomacy. And even modern diplomats, they study Artha Shastra. It's more or less considered to be the oldest book on diplomacy. And Chandragupta Maurya, diplomacy is not always honest. Diplomacy is diplomacy. And Kshatriyas are allowed to be, unlike Brahmanas. Brahmanas, like we hear, they should be truthful, honest, even at their disadvantage, there are some examples also of some very saintly kings, who at their disadvantage, they were honest still, But in general, if a king wants to be successful, he needs to be diplomatic and shrewd. Shrewd means, how is this word name? Like, gerissen auf Deutsch. He should be, very cunning, like, making, like, you could say by hook and by crook, Prabhupada used to say sometimes, You should distribute books by hook or by crook, With some devotees then took too literally and, made some mistakes also. But it means that you should be smart, how to like Anakadundavi Prabhu was telling how he received a letter, from one official to distribute books in this official building, And he realized that this other building, which was the most difficult building, he always wanted to enter, always beyond his reach, Now he had some letter that he could, even was for the other building, nobody would know for which building because it was written, So he took that letter and went there and you cannot enter. He showed the letter and then he entered. So technically you could say it's not honest, but for a higher purpose. So in a similar way, Chanakya trained Chandragupta Maurya also in diplomacy, and little by little he became more and more powerful, until he reached a point where he was the emperor of India. Like that. So in a similar way here the Brahmanas, in this case of course, this of course are two different, but it's both important, because in this case the emphasis is on the lineage, the, how does Prabhupada says, the seminal succession, in the twice-born families, especially Brahmanas, Kshatriyas as well as Shudras, must be kept very pure. So ideally, if there is a qualified lineage, if it's kept pure by the proper samskaras, and of course also choosing wisely whom you marry, ideally, the lineage can be kept pure, and you can be sure that you will have good progeny, good children. The moment the purity is compromised, like in this case, Anga happened to marry Sunita, who was of Asuric lineage. She was the daughter of Mrityu, of death personified. Imagine having death personified as your father-in-law. So, therefore, Vena was born. And so this is like a strong point for keeping the lineage pure. So ideally, a good family will create good children, but of course there's always irregularities. It's to be expected in the material world that there will be irregularities, and also in the case of the Pandavas, there are irregularities. As you might know. If you read the Mahabharata, the 5 Pandavas are actually the sons of demigods with Mother Kunti. Even they're considered to be sons of Pandu. Technically, they were sons of demigods because Pandu could not conceive children. So in that case, it was stopped because he had a curse. And Pandu himself, also the lineage did not work properly. And a special arrangement was made that Vyasadeva would conceive children. So technically he was, Pandu, who was a Kshatriya, he was fathered by a Brahmana in the womb of the daughter of a fisherman, or the granddaughters of fishermen. So like that, it's not always possible to have like the lineage pure, but if it's possible, it's the ideal. So in the case of Chandragupta Maurya, he realized all these families, they might be, royal families, but none of them is qualified. None of them has the real qualities of a Kshatriya. So he looked for somebody who had the qualities of a Kshatriya and trained him. So Srila Prabhupada often talks about this, that there is always the possibility to be elevated. Even the circumstances, the background one might have are not ideal. Through training, we can become qualified. And that's, of course, for most of us a big hope, because we might not have an ideal background as well. We might not have perfect, Vedic lineages. Most of us are not from a Brahminical, or Kshatriya or Vaishya, Dvija dynasty. So our hope is that by sadhana and by adhering to Pancharatra, Pancharatra means basically the rules and regulations, of purity. We can elevate ourselves, and we can elevate ourselves to the level where we can then receive mantra diksha and harinam diksha, and we can raise ourselves. So this is, I wanted to emphasize this also, because otherwise it might seem that Srila Prabhupada is saying that, we need to adhere to the caste system, by hook or by crook. But Srila Prabhupada clearly was against the caste system, in the sense that not against Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma is natural and given by Krishna, but when Varnashrama Dharma becomes an entitlement and not a qualification. So when somebody thinks, I'm born in a Brahman family, so therefore I'm a Brahmana, automatically, well, not necessarily, like King Vena, also born in a very good family, very good father, but obviously not qualified. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also faced a lot of opposition when he started initiating all kinds of people into Brahminical, mantras and rites. So Srila Prabhupada was actually not the first one in that sense. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, his own spiritual master, he was the first one who started initiating many, many people in Harinam Diksha, and the Orthodox Brahmanas did not appreciate it at all. They did not like it. So much so that when Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj brought his Braj Mandal Parikram to Vrindavan, most of the temples closed the doors. Imagine, most of the caste Goswamis of Vrindavan, they closed the doors for Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. It's like this guy, he's undermining the seminal purity of the Brahminical, lineage by initiating some random people into Brahmana mantras. And the only temple that opened, which one was it? Somebody knows? It's our favorite temple in Vrindavan. Yes. So Radharaman, everybody knows Radharaman? Radharaman is the deity of whom? No. Who's the deity of Sanatana Goswami? Nein. Oh Gott, das gibt's ja nicht. Das müsst ihr wissen. You have to know this. So Sanatana Goswami's Ishtadev is Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan. So Madan Mohan and Shadashtila. Actually, the deity was discovered before already by Advaitacharya, it says. But Sanatana Goswami took care of the deity. And a famous story where he had the deity already, and he actually had the deity in a piece of cloth hanging in a tree, That's how he was keeping the deity safe, Piece of cloth, and it was hanging in the tree. And Sanatana Goswami was a very poor, simple sadhu, So he was sitting there in the Shadashatila. This is this hill in Vrindavan. And it says this is the hill where Krishna dried himself after killing Kaliya, So Krishna was fighting against Kaliya for quite some time, dancing on his hoods, becoming very wet. So afterwards he went to the Shadashatila, and on this hill the sun became very warm and warmed it up. So it's a famous hill in Vrindavan. On top of that hill, Sanatana Goswami was, staying, and he received a complaint from Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan said, can you at least put some salt in this bread, So he was making this, I think chakri it's called. It's still very common in Rajasthan. You just make a dough, like a ball of dough, and you throw it into the coals in the hot fire, And then you cover it, and you wait, some time, and then you take the ash away, and then it's bread, So in Rajasthan they still eat it. It's a very nice dish, They put in a lot of ghee and dal and sabji to it, and you can eat it. Very tasty. But the version Sanatana Goswami was eating, he had no ghee, no big dal, no salt even, He was just eating this dough, and that's all he was eating, and water. Just very simple. So, like that, he was complaining then, give me some salt. So Madan Mohan is the deity of Sanatana Goswami. So who's Govindaji's deity then? Yes, Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami, he's the one who built the Govindaji Mandir, or had the Govindaji Mandir built in Vrindavan. Rupa Goswami As it's also interesting, like this is of course a little bit topic of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but these deities, Madan Mohan, Govinda ji, and Gopinath are the three most important deities. Among the 7 most important deities in Vrindavan, these 3 are the most important. You know, they are the Ishta Devas of Sambandha, Videya, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. You know? So Madan Mohan is the Sambandha Adideva. So that means that by worshipping Madan Mohan, we can overcome our illusion and lust. And the pranam mantra for Madan Mohan is Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Mandamatir Gati Mat Sarvasva Parambojo Radha Madana Mohanao, which means I am lame. You know? I am lame. I am so useless. Please, you know, give me shelter at your lotus feet. You know, please free me of illusion. Madan Mohan. So Madan Mohan literally means he who can attract even lust personified. You know? Basically, Madan Mohan means that he is more powerful than Cupid. So Cupid, Kamadeva, is also described in the Vedas, very similar, Kamadeva, with an arrow of flowers, you know, and very piercing, you know, arrows, and we can easily be overcome by lusts, you know. So Madan Mohan is so powerful that even Kamadeva himself, when he sees Madan Mohan, he's like, oh. So even Kamadeva is illusioned, you know, is bewitched by the beauty of Madan Mohan. So in the prayer to Madan Mohan, we hope that by understanding, Sambandha means also gaining knowledge, you know, and that's also Sanatana Goswami gives us so much knowledge, so much practical knowledge, you know. If you read the scriptures of Sanatana Goswami, like Brihad Bhagavatamrita and others, the focus of Sanatana Goswami is very much to give us an understanding who we are and what our goal is. You know? Understanding our, you know, conditioned situation and how we can cross all the different layers of existence to ultimately reach, you know, Krishna. So yes, and then Govinda ji is the Abhideya Adideva. Means that he is the deity who engages us in service. So Madan Mohan is described, he's standing you know, in the banks of the Yamuna, very beautiful. So you see him, if you connect with him, we can overcome our lower nature. Once we have overcome our lower nature, we can take shelter of the teachings of Rupa Goswami, who teaches us how to perform practical devotional service. You know? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is all about practical devotional service, you know, what steps to take. And then it goes very deep, you know, you really understand, you know, who are the Krishna's friends, parents. Currently we're reading about Krishna's parents, you know, Mother Yashoda. So the Abhideva Pranam Mantra describes Radha Govinda. They're sitting on a simhasana, you know, in Vrindavan, in a very beautifully adorned throne. And we are part of the entourage, you know, serving their pastimes, preparing. And basically temple life is, you know, Adideva, you know, as Abhideya principle. That means we are doing everything here to please Nrsingadev. You know? Everything we do here, we will continue doing in the spiritual world, you know. We also will have a temple commander, you know, a Saki telling us, yeah, cook the milk. You know, it's overcooking, quickly. Make the burfis, prepare the betel nuts for Radha Krishna. Are the garlands ready, you know? They're coming soon, you know. The parrots of Vrinda Devi have informed us they will be here in a few minutes, you know. Is everything ready? You know? So it's like a, you know, like a temple. And we prepare everything for the service of Radha Govinda. So that's the principle of Abhideya. And then the last deity is Gopinath. Radha Gopinath. And who is the devotee who worshipped Gopinath? He's not so well known. Madhu Pandit. Madhu Pandit. So Madhu Pandit, walking in the forest of Vrindavan, saw a deity which was, covered in roots and twigs, and very beautiful deity. And Karamakana Maharaj always used to talk about Radha Gopinath and especially Madhu Pandit, because Madhu Pandit was well known for having kurta and a hat, out of tulasi. So not only 3 beads around the neck, he had a full hat and a coat of tulasi, and it's still there. You can see this coat in the Gopinath temple in Jaipur. They have a glass box, and there's the hat, tulasi hat, and tulasi kurta of Madhu Pandit. Very beautiful, very delicate, So Gopinath is, of course, the most intimate aspects of Krishna's Leela. Krishna as the leader of the gopis, Radhanatha, Gopinath, the master of the gopis, and he's enjoying pastimes, the rasa dance. So all of this we can understand once we are, properly engaged in service. We might be able to enter into this most, intimate parts of Krishna's service. So, yes. And then, besides these 3 main deities, there are a few more. There's Radha Damodar, which is Jiva Goswami's deity, Radha Raman, which is Gopal Bhatta Goswami's deity, and then Radha Shyama Sundar, Shamananda Pandit, and then, which one I'm missing? But yeah, 7 main deities in Vrindavan. And for us, the Radharaman temple is special because actually Srila Prabhupada was also befriended with Padmanabha Goswami, was the name of the Goswami at that time. And the lineage of Vishvambar. Padmanabha is the son?
He was even here, Vishvambar.
And Padmanabha is the son? Yeah. Okay, so Vishvambar Goswamis is a different generation. So, but the Goswamis of the Radharaman temple, they're a very good example of, a seminal succession of pious brahmanas. They're a big family. They live right there at the Radharaman temple. And since generations, since the time of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they have been conducting the service of Radharaman. And Srila Prabhupada actually said that we should learn our style of worship from them. If we have any questions about deity worship, we should learn from them. And I recommend, there's a very nice clip in YouTube. It's called, I forget the name. But it's a very nice clip from devotees from Croatia. They made on Radharaman a documentary where the entire mood of the Radharaman temple is explained. So the Radharaman temple has a combination of 3 main aspects. So it has the cooking style of Jagannath Puri. They have an eternal fire, always burning. And they cook like in Jagannath Puri, big sumptuous meals. The style of worship is from South India, because Gopal Bhatta Goswami actually is from a Sri Vaishnava family from South India. And the mood is of Braj. So like that. So this is a combination of those 3 aspects. And when Madan Mohan, who are now here behind the board, the way they were worshipped here in Simhachalam was basically directly linked to the Radharaman temple. Ashtarata Prabhu used to travel very often to Radharaman temple and learn from them, and like Akila Prabhu was saying also, Vishvambar Goswami visited also here. and the style of the crowns, the way he's dressed, all very traditional like Radharaman. And Damodar Priya Mataji was telling me that now nobody knows actually how to do it anymore. So we're dressing now Radharaman, Radha Madan Mohan in Golokadam. We could say like, which is also nice, but like the standard ISKCON temples. But before they actually had this very traditional Radharaman style of dresses and crowns, etc. So, yes, the Radharaman temple was the only temple that opened the doors for Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. That's where we left off. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, therefore, there was a natural strong bond, with the movement of the Gaudiya Math and Radharaman temple, and later on also Srila Prabhupada. And still nowadays, if you go to Vrindavan, you have to go to the darshan. I recommend especially going to the 9 p.m. darshan in Radharaman temple, because Radharaman temple, every night there is a member of the family of the Goswamis who plays the flute. So every night when Radharaman goes to bed, he's playing the flute for Radharaman. It's very beautiful. And many nice kirtans are there also performed, and it's the only temple also, I think, in Vrindavan, traditional temple where kirtaniyas from ISKCON sing also. Like Sachinandan Maharaj is regularly there, and other devotees sing bhajans for Radharaman also. And if you understand a little bit Hindi and Braja Bhasa, Braja Boli, they sing these very beautiful songs for Radharaman. There's like a whole sequence, different songs they sing during the day. They sing, now Krishna is eating butter and he's, licking his lips, and they sing the whole day, what he's doing. So Radharaman Ki Jai. And so the point I was trying to expand was that Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is the example of Acharya who started initiating people without a seminal, lineage, of great brahmanas. And Radharaman Goswamis, they are a traditional, lineage of brahmanas that are very, pure, and there is no disharmony. There is only disharmony when you have, because Prabhupada actually criticized a few times some of the other temples, all the Goswamis, like for example even the Radha Damodar temple where Srila Prabhupada himself, had his room, for some time, and still we can visit Prabhupada's room in Radha Damodar temple. He criticized that if you go there now to the altar of Radha Damodar temple, there's, I think, 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 sets of Radha Krishna deities in the altar, And Srila Prabhupada said, and you don't know which one is Radha Damodar if you are not, versed. Because the Goswamis, they realized that the other temples they had, they were not so successful, so they just put all the deities in one altar. That's the main temple, that's where most donations come. Let's focus on one temple only. So Prabhupada was criticizing, they should maintain the temples, then they should not, sell them and, put all the deities in one temple. So when, you could also say that pure Brahminical dynasties, they can appreciate when somebody who might not have a background, of seminal purity, are behaving properly and are, following Pancharatrika and behaving like Brahmanas, they can fully appreciate, Whereas the others who are not pure in behavior, or not, they become envious and become afraid that their position might be usurped, because their you could say qualification is just by heritage, not by behavior as well. So you need to have both always, ideally. And since we already touched this topic, I shortly will mention about there's the Vedic qualification, Pancharatra qualification, and Bhagavat qualification. So it's a topic I always like to, talk about and mention. But it's very interesting because, of course, ideally we have a Vedic situation where the parents, like Srila Prabhupada says, perform the Garbhadana Samskara before conceiving a child. So from the very beginning, like you have a lineage, of qualified, devotees in the past, and then before you conceive a next child, you do it very consciously with a purificatory rite. You purify the body. You perform a ritual, and in general, of course, the Garbhadana Samskara is a reflection of your whole, you could say, sadhana and how you live, how you think, of your consciousness, and then you conceive a good child. And sorry, I forgot what I wanted to say now. Was habe ich davor gesagt? Somebody help me, I lost my path now. I was going somewhere. Was habe ich davor gesagt? Sobald was übersetzt.
Es ist meistens noch schwieriger.
Noch schwieriger, musst du nur fokussieren auf den Moment, oder?
Ja.
Okay. What do I want to say? Where was it going? Yeah, this is a bit further away.
You were mentioning different types, like...
Yes, thank you very much. So, yes, so this is the ideal when you have, such a situation. This is Vedic, you have the full tradition, ideal. The second best is when we don't have a qualification from birth, so we can become qualified by following the rules and regulation. And this is called Pancharatrika initiation. So this is more liberal. That means it doesn't matter where you come from, you can still take part. And you could say, strictly speaking, somebody who's from a Vedic tradition, they will hesitate, to be connected to somebody who doesn't have a pure background. And that's, of course, if the families are not, if they are not, you could say, fully pure, cannot appreciate Pancharatrika, they might push, only Vedic, only Vedic mantras, no Puranas, those who only accept the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, they also think Bhagavatam, if you like the stories, like that, But the Acharyas, of course, emphasize that actually, especially the Bhagavatam, but also the other Puranas, they are there to elevate people from different sections of society. Whereas those who only follow the Vedas, the Chaturvedis and Trivedis, Dvivedis, these are family names. Those who chant the Vedas, they might be very focused. If your grandfather didn't chant the Vedas, then don't even think about reading the Vedas. Like that. So yes, Vedic is when you have an ideal situation. Then Pancharatrika is more generous and allows anybody to follow this path. It's also called Vidhi Marga, Vaidhi Marga, the path of rules and regulations. And Srila Prabhupada says that actually we are predominantly focusing on 2, like a train has 2 rails. We have 2 rails, 2 tracks we run on. And this is Vaidhi Marga, which is Pancharatrika, and Bhagavad Marga. So Bhagavad Marga is actually the most generous, but also the most elevated and most difficult to always uphold. So Bhagavad Marga is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So to hear, to chant, and to think, to meditate upon Krishna. There is no rules at all for that. If you want to go on the altar, if you want to go in the kitchen, there are some restrictions. You first have to do the Bhakta program, then you find your spiritual master, then you get initiation, then you can go on the altar and do puja. But to chant the holy name, anybody, we go on the streets, and especially Haranam Ruchi, they have perfected the art of engaging everybody, And I don't know how they do it, because I couldn't do it like they do it. And my Gurudev once said that there's different, stages of kirtan qualification. So if you are a Kanishta kirtan near, you are, thinking, I'm singing alone with Krishna. So you're singing alone with Krishna. You never look at the devotees. You're just singing with Krishna. And it's a nice kirtan. If you are a madhyama, adhikari in kirtan, then you manage to involve all the devotees. And it's amazing kirtan in the temple. And if you're an uttama adhikari in kirtan, you go outside, and even the karmis, everybody will chant with you. Like that. So Bhagavad Marga means that anybody can take part. The entry qualification is straight away. Hare Krishna, initiated. So Pancharatrika takes minimum a year, it says. Until you're qualified and the guru accepts you, etc. But Bhagavat is immediately. Anybody who utters once the name of Krishna is considered to be a devotee already. But of course, to only chant and hear and remember Krishna, always, that's the highest. Not everybody can do it, always. So the entry point is very, very liberal, but to stay there, very few can do it. Therefore we have Pancharatrika, so many other engagements, so many other rules and regulations to help us to one day again be fully absorbed in the holy names. Okay, I think I'll stop here. Maybe there are some questions, comments. Okay. Granthara Srimad, yeah. Ist an? Ja, oben musst du unmuten. Einfach schieben, den Regler.
Okay, ist jetzt an? Oder war es aus?
Schieb nochmal. Ja, ich glaube, das ist gut. Nein, das ist für einen Livestream.
Ach so, Livestream, ja.
Genau. Gibst du ihn kurz? Jetzt.
Okay, yeah, yes, my question is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vibhagasana. This is a qualification for the caste. He explains the caste, Brahminical and Kshatriya and this and that. So there's no mention of family lineage or heritage. It's only said Guna Karma. Because also in the family lineage, Guna and Karma is preserved. Like the father will train the child and the father gives it. So why some people may not really accept that what Krishna himself says, Guna Karma. Why is there so much difficulty here?
So yeah, this is the if you want to explain the Varnashrama system or caste system, is very important. This is one of the most important verse because Krishna says, I established the system. It's natural. And it's based on guna and karma. So it means on qualities and your work. Both. So what your activity is and what your quality is, this determines ultimately what you do. And this is absolute. It's Krishna's words and it's absolute. And it applies even if you're born in a good lineage, like we have the example of Vena here. Even if you're born in a good lineage, if you don't have the guna, and you don't do the karma, still, So like that. So I think this is like the predominant point, always. And if there is a lineage, very good. If there's no lineage, we can improve it, So by guna and by karma, You can like guna, Guna is of course a big topic. You talk about the 3 gunas, And then, but basically guna means, what qualities you have. And like in the example of Chanakya Pandit, he saw the qualities, he saw the guna in the small boy. He had a guna of a kshatriya, rescuing, an animal, taking, a risk, So he trained him, like that. So why people are not accepting it? Because it's convenient, It's the convenience of maintaining power and wealth, So, yes, Kali Yuga.
Karma means also training. You can say some training.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, karma means activities. What activities you're doing, you know? If you're trained, you know, in a certain way, that's what you're doing. There's the saying, far more people have become qualified by training than by talent. You know, so talent, you could say, is what you inherit, you know? But training, you know, is most important, you know? It's like, and a silly example, when I was a small kid, there is this, you know Shitali pranayama. It's like, I thought this is, and or children just do it for fun, you know. But it says if you're not born with it, you can't do it. You know, you've heard this maybe. Some people can't do it, you know. And I couldn't do it as a child. And my mother said, no, if you're born, you can't do it. Like, no, I'm gonna. And then I trained until I could do it. So, yeah, you can, you know. Most things you can probably. If you train long enough, you can everything. Yes.
Question. This story with Chanakya Pandit, was it ultimately successful that he could train? Was he successful when he trained up this boy?
Yeah. Chandragupta Maurya, he started the Mauryan Empire, was the biggest empire, not in Vedic times, but this is around 2,000 years ago, more or less, 2,500 years ago. Yeah, big success. He tied his knot again. Okay, du hast eine Frage, oder? Nee. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.